A meeting 1,000 years in the making. Pope Francis and the Russian Orthodox leader.
Coming up, we'll have a report from the Pope's first stop on his week-long tour of Mexico, right here at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Fallen officers, violence targets police across the country. Pope's hello, a message to our founder, Mother Angelica. On EWTN News Nightly for Friday, February 12th, 2016. For the first time in nearly 1,000 years, the Pope meets with the head of the Russian Orthodox Church. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Ashburn. The Pope set off today from Italy to Cuba, and he arrives in Mexico later this evening. Our team of correspondents will bring coverage from across the globe. EWTN's Susie Pinto will join us from Mexico in a moment. First, Alan Holdren is traveling on the papal plane. He had a remarkable moment with Pope Francis, who offered a special message to EWTN foundress Mother Angelica.
To Mother Angelica, with my blessing, and I ask you to pray for me. I need it. God bless you, Mother Angelica.
Alan Holdren, Rome Bureau Chief for EWTN's Catholic News Agency, joins us from Cuba. I understand this historic meeting just happened. What can you tell us?
That's right, Lauren. Pope Francis has just met with Patriarch Kirill. First time ever for a Pope meeting a Russian Orthodox Patriarch. It's here in Havana. We know that the Pope told him repeatedly, we're brothers. He gave him a hug, told him, we are brothers. Kirill told the Pope, it's easier now. And the Pope said it's very clear that this is the will of God. They exchanged gifts. The Pope gave the Patriarch a chalice that's like a reliquary that holds the relics of Saint Cyril, very important to the Eastern churches.
Is there a document they're signing? Can you tell us about that?
That's right. They're signing this, what they're calling a joint document between the Russian Orthodox and between the Roman Catholic churches. These two leaders are joining forces to speak out with a collective voice. We don't yet know exactly what's in that document. As soon as they sign it, it will be released.
And I understand earlier you were on the plane and you had an opportunity to speak with the Pope. He gave a message to our foundress, Mother Angelica.
That's right, Lauren. We all, on the flight, there's 76 journalists and cameramen, photographers. We all had the chance to greet the Pope personally. And when he came around, I just wanted to ask him if he had a special message for Mother. Given her condition, she's bedridden, he said that he wanted her to pray for him and that he would also pray for her. I also told him about our newborn son, and he said that Joseph is a very nice name. He said he loves it.
What a great moment for you and for your family. Thank you, Alan Holdren, reporting from Cuba.
Thank you, Lauren.
Pope Francis's trip to Mexico will include a tour of some of the most violent, poverty-stricken places in the Americas. He brings a message of hope and solidarity, a message the Vatican hopes will also resonate north of the border. EWTN's Susie Pinto reports from Mexico City.
Mexico City is a bustling metropolis with over 20 million inhabitants. Final preparations are underway in the city to receive Pope Francis. Pedro Gomez is a street cleaner.
Para fortalecer la fe católica de México y como Papa Latino.
He says Francis, the first Latin American pope, will strengthen the faithful. Mexico has the globe's second largest number of Catholics, with over 80% of Mexicans identifying as such. In recent years, drug-related violence and migration have plagued the nation. Many blame politicians, but historian Jorge Trasloceros says it's up to Mexicans to change their nation's course.
We're very tired of a cultural crisis that have a name, corruption, and a last name, violence. Pope Francis is telling us, and very clearly message, the Virgen de Guadalupe is telling you, don't be afraid. Transform Mexico. I'm here. I'm your mother. Don't be afraid.
For Gabi Obregon, the key to transforming Mexico is transmitting the faith to her 4 children.
The kids are really excited. They are getting really conscious that he's a really important person for us Catholics. and he's the leader of our church. He's like coming to show us that we have to do something.
Our executive producer, Susie Pinto, joins us now from the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. Susie, it is so great to see you. Now, this is Pope Francis's first stop. It's not surprising, is it?
No, Lauren, it's not. Pope Francis says his deepest desire for this trip is to pray before Our Lady of Guadalupe. He will be doing just that tomorrow evening. He'll be saying Mass. Millions are expected to come. Now, this shrine, which you see behind me, is built near the site where Our Lady appeared to St. Juan Diego in 1531, over 500 years ago. And today in Mexico City, it's known as La Villa.
Such a rich Catholic history in Mexico. You mentioned 1 million people could be there. Can you feel the excitement?
Absolutely, Lauren. The excitement is building. Mexicans are so happy to welcome Pope Francis. The roads are closed, security is very tight, and we feel that there's a great amount of affection for Pope Francis. Of course, Pope Francis is the first Latin American Pope, so he'll be speaking to them in their native Spanish, and they really feel a connection with this Holy Father.
Now, what else is on the Pope's schedule? Where's he headed after this?
The Pope has a packed schedule here in Mexico. After Mexico City, he's going to head to a city north of Mexico City. He will be saying a Mass there on Sunday. And then after that, he's going to be going to the region of Chiapas near the border with Guatemala. That is home to many of Mexicans' indigenous population and also a very poor area. After that, the Pope will be coming back up to Morelia, and that's a region that has been hit by a lot of drug-related crime and violence. And of course, the Pope is going to end his trip near the U.S.-Mexico border in Ciudad Juarez. He'll be saying a Mass there on Wednesday, and he's also going to be going to the border and praying. And that's a great gesture of solidarity with migrants, and the Pope and the Vatican hope that that message resonates north of the border in the United States.
Okay, Susie, well, we hope you stay safe. We look forward to all of your reports next week from Mexico. Susie Pinto, our executive producer in Mexico. When on the Mexican-U.S. border in Juarez, he will pray for all of those who have died trying to cross the border. Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar hopes it improves relations.
Ciudad Juarez used to be the most dangerous city in Mexico. Not anymore, it's getting better. So just to come in, to provide that hope, that optimism that you might have a time where there were dark clouds over Ciudad Juarez, but now, you know, there's businesses are going back, there's new life, there's been breathed back into Ciudad Juarez.
Cuellar says Mexico is not a threat but a strong partner. He hopes the visit will inspire Mexican leaders to rein in violence. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. 5 officers gunned down in an unusually deadly week for police. Catherine Szeltner reports on one group's push to support the families.
You see the stuff in movies and online and everything and on like TV when it actually happens, but you never like think you're gonna go out to lunch one day with your mom and then it's just gonna happen.
A witness describes the Wednesday shooting deaths of senior deputies Patrick Daly and Mark Logston in Abingdon, Maryland. One officer is killed in the U.S. every 60 hours, but this week has been especially grim. In Grand Junction, Colorado, Deputy Derek Gear died from a gunshot wound. Officer Jason Mosier was shot and killed in Fargo, North Dakota. And late yesterday, Major Greg Barney was gunned down and died after surgery in Riverdale, Georgia.
The numbers are stark. 8 officers shot and killed already this year, compared to 1 in 2015 during that same period.
Craig Floyd is CEO of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund in Washington, D.C. The group honors over 20,000 fallen officers at their memorial because it says it's important for the loved ones left behind to know they are remembered and supported.
What we don't realize is after the funeral's over, these families have to live with that tragedy. They have to somehow cope with it.
Floyd says Americans have short-term memory in honoring our law enforcement.
Somehow we've forgotten 9/11 and what it was like for our police officers and the heroism that they displayed on that particular day. And we forget that they go out every day across America doing that same level of service and sacrifice.
A service and sacrifice that ended fatally for 5 officers this week. Catherine Szeltner, EWTN News Nightly.
Growing concerns North Korea is advancing its nuclear weapons program. Congress is slapping new sanctions on the secretive country. Our Capitol Hill reporter Jason Calvi has the story. Jason.
Yeah, Lauren, both in the Senate and the House, everyone who voted except for 2 supported the new sanctions. They're designed to crack down on the money North Korea would need to create miniaturized nuclear weapons and long-range missiles. The House vote today comes less than a week after North Korea launched a rocket into space. The country also conducted an underground nuclear test last month. The Director of National Intelligence told Congress this week that North Korea has expanded a uranium enrichment plant and restarted a plutonium reactor. So today, Congress springs into action facing a possibly growing nuclear arsenal.
We have to stand up for what we believe, what we think is right.
Do you think this will actually help, though?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, the guy's been willing to punish his people. His dad, his grandfather, have been willing to punish the North Korean people for decades. So who knows if he cares enough about the actual suffering that his people go through to make some changes that are necessary.
And just yesterday, new allegations that North Korea has killed yet another military official. The White House says the president doesn't oppose the new sanctions bill, but they haven't been willing to confirm if he'll sign it. Lauren?
Jason, what are some of the penalties inside this bill?
Well, those who help North Korea would face, they could face seized assets, denial of visas, as well as denial of government contracts.
Jason Calvi on Capitol Hill. Jason, thank you. A ceasefire in Syria could pave the way for more humanitarian aid. Diplomats say the break-in fighting will start within a week. The war has already killed more than 250,000 people. It's created Europe's biggest refugee crisis since World War II and allowed ISIS to carve out its own territory. Coming up, Democratic debate. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders on the attack. Pope Francis makes peace. What his meeting with the Russian Orthodox leader means. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Last night, Democratic candidates highlighted the difference between them. Bernie Sanders, who won the first-in-the-nation primary this week, continues to harp on Hillary Clinton's ties to big banks. Hillary Clinton jumped on Sanders' anti-Wall Street bandwagon.
We both agree that we have to get unaccountable money out of our political system and that we have to do much more to ensure that Wall Street never wrecks Main Street again.
And went on the offensive attacking his health care plan.
That's a promise that cannot be kept.
Sanders made sure to check his rival.
Secretary Clinton, you're not in the White House yet.
And called Clinton out on her stump speeches.
Secretary Clinton has been going around the country saying Bernie Sanders wants to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. I have fought my entire life to make sure that health care is a right for all people. We're not going to dismantle anything.
When asked about discrimination, Clinton sided with key constituencies, Latinos, African Americans, and female voters.
I'm running for president to knock down all the barriers that are holding Americans back.
As both candidates looked toward the Nevada primary, Sanders attempted to keep his young base while courting the elderly vote.
If elected president, I will do everything I can to expand Social Security benefit, not just for seniors, but for disabled veterans as well.
The next primary is February 20th in South Carolina. Donald Trump is the only Republican candidate not campaigning there today. And on Monday, Jeb Bush's campaign rolls out the first appearance by his brother, former President George W. Bush. And that's since his brother began running. A former presidential candidate makes his allegiance to Jeb Bush clear. We met up with Senator Bob Dole on Capitol Hill today. He had harsh words for 2 GOP frontrunners.
Cruz doesn't have a single senator supporting him. And people don't like him. And, you know, he works hard. I'll say that for him. He's a hard worker. He's a good debater and a good speaker. But that doesn't mean you be a good president. I don't agree with Donald Trump that all politicians are stupid. You know, I was in the Senate 28 plus years, and I never met anybody who would be in that classification, Democrat or Republican.
Dole was the 1996 Republican nominee. He returned to the Capitol today with his wife, Elizabeth, for a dog adoption event. Up next, putting the Pope's trip in perspective, how it may influence future religious meetings. And making waves, groundbreaking scientific discovery about gravitation. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. As the Pope's plane touches down in Mexico tonight, excitement is building for his week-long visit. Grandstands are erected in a main square in Mexico City, and tomorrow he visits the National Palace and the Cathedral. EWTN's coverage begins at 10:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Today's meeting between Pope Francis and Russian Patriarch Kirill could have a positive effect on a Pan-Orthodox meeting in June. National Catholic Register's Rome correspondent Ed Pentin explains why.
Well, this is a very historic meeting that's going to be taking place, the first one since 787. It's really it's setting the stage for that for the Russian Orthodox. The Russian Orthodox seem to be sort of weakening their moral authority, and this meeting is a good way to sort of increase that ahead of this very historic meeting in June.
Now, Pope Francis met with his Council of Cardinals before he left for this historic meeting, and they were continuing their discussion on decentralization of the church. What does that mean, and what are the next steps?
Right, well, this is very much what the Pope wants. He wants a more listening church, one which is more consultative of the faithful and of bishops. There are certain risks to this, of course, which could threaten church unity if it goes too far in one direction, but it is recognized as needed. And the next step really is just to see how far this can be taken and draw up a series of proposals. There was a meeting at the Vatican last week about this, as well as the C9 meeting, so we're just going to have to wait and see what kind of model they put forward.
Ed Pentin joining us from Rome. Ed, thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura.
The Pope's visit to Mexico is expected to have a uniting effect on Hispanics worldwide, especially those in America. Bishop Mario Dorsenville Rodriguez of the Archdiocese of Washington joins us now. Welcome to EWTN.
Thank you, Lauren. Always is a pleasure to be with you.
In the United States, you and I worked together very closely on Pope Francis's visit, trying to make sure that he had coverage that he needed, and you were speaking out about his message. What do you think this trip to Mexico is going to mean to Hispanic Americans here?
Well, as always, is remembering his presence in our country, but also realizing that he is a shepherd, a universal shepherd. He cares for all nations around the world, and he's trying to do his best to be present in nations that are so Catholic and important for the church as Mexico is.
Why do you think he chose to do the Mass on the Mexican-American border?
Well, that's a message for all the immigrants around the United States and around Mexico. I guess that the Pope wants to pray for all of them as a shepherd that takes care of the flock. By doing that Mass, he is sending a message. We really need to care for the human person, because the human person is the face of Christ. Therefore, I really think that is a prayer, and it is a message of mercy, compassion, and openness for everyone.
The Church stays away from taking a position on immigration. And this message that he is bringing, is it meant to give comfort to those who are displaced?
Absolutely. The message is born from the teaching of the gospel, where we see Jesus taking care of every single person. I really think that is not a political move, but also a humanitarian move that connects to every single person around the world. That's why Pope Francis can speak to everyone, because he is advocating for mercy, solidarity, and compassion.
Bishop Mario Dorsenville Rodriguez, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
Scientists across the country are celebrating one of the biggest eureka moments in the history of physics. This week, a group of research organizations announced they have detected gravitational waves. That confirms a prediction Einstein made a century ago. EWTN's Wyatt Goolsby explains the discovery.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have detected Gravitational waves. We did it.
The announcement electrified the world of astronomy, with some comparing Thursday's announcement in Washington to the first time Galileo looked through a telescope. Scientists describe gravitational waves as ripples in the fabric of space and time. For more than a century, physicists have been trying to prove that the waves exist. Albert Einstein first wrote about them as part of his theory of general relativity in 1916.
So these gravitational waves were produced by two colliding black holes that came together, merged to form a single black hole about 1.3 billion years ago. They were detected by LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory.
An all-star international team of astrophysicists pulled resources to build LIGO, a $1.1 billion instrument with facilities in Washington State and Louisiana. Splitting a laser beam through several 2-kilometer vacuum tunnels demonstrated a slight vibration, or ripple, in space-time. Small, but significant. Astronomers say it opens the door to a new way of observing the cosmos. For scientists across the world, it raises the level of respect for Albert Einstein.
Einstein is at the same level of Newton. You can argue whose contribution was more important. I think that is arguing about how many angels fit on a needle pin.
Einstein continues to be remembered for showing how the world doesn't always behave the way we expect, and we should be willing to question what we know about the universe. Wyatt Goolsby, EWTN News Nightly.
Dr. Anthony Rizzi is the director of the Institute for Advanced Physics. You were one of the first scientists working on this project 35 years ago. What does this mean?
Well, it's very exciting. It means we've verified the existence of gravity waves for the first time. And, you know, the physical world, which is what we're studying here, is the opening to all the things we know, because everything we know comes through the senses. And I have a book called The Kid's Introduction to Physics that talks about that. And in fact, it talks about how you go from the physical world to God. And it's everything in the physical world is taking you and telling you something about God. In fact, the top 3 scientists of the modern era, Newton, Maxwell, and Einstein, all said the reason they did physics was to get to the beauty and intelligibility of God. So that's what this does, and we should all be excited to learn something new about God.
So in addition to learning about God, what can we learn in the future? What else does this point us to?
Well, you know, this opens up a whole new branch of astronomy, because now that we've verified the existence of gravity waves, Einstein's theory has now been shown to be valid in another arena, which we can trust it now, and it tells us about all kinds of new objects. And this new way of looking at the world is better than X-rays. It allows us to look through things in a way that X-rays can't even do. It allows us to look through the universe way back, even to the beginning of time.
And so does that mean if you can look back, you can actually travel back? Or is that pretty far-fetched?
No, in fact, it is true that Einstein's theory is equations. It's a system of equations, actually, show that you can come up with solutions that have what's called time-like loops, which means that you can go back in time. But nobody really takes them seriously. And in fact, there's larger reasons in the basic physics why you couldn't do it. And so you really can't do the Back to the Future thing.
So
but maybe the
just
Cubs will still win the World Series.
Yeah, right. It's just Michael J. Fox. It won't be us who can go back to the future.
That's right.
Dr. Rizzi, what a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
For more about Dr. Rizzi's work and his children's physics book, head to iapweb.org. This ends our coverage for the evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Watch EWTN tomorrow at 10:30 for more coverage of the Pope's visit to Mexico. In the meantime, we will leave you tonight with video from the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the shrine on the outskirts of Mexico City. Good night, and que Dios te bendiga.